And what I'll do at this time is I will share my PowerPoint slides. And at this time, Jeff, are you able to see my title slide? Oops, I went back.
Yep, you're good to go.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you again for that introduction, and thank you for those of you that are taking time out to join this webinar today. And some of the information we cover every week, some basic things, but I always bring in fresh information. And this week, the theme of the fresh information I brought in is special tips about how to seek jobs and update your resume during this time of this pandemic. And I see in the participant box, I see several new names and some longtime friends as well. So welcome to everyone who has joined. And we will be using the interactive features of Zoom, as Jeff mentioned. So if everybody could click on the participant box right now and click on that box, and then at the bottom of that screen, there should be a menu, and click on the green check mark. If you can hear my voice okay and see the screens. Okay, great, thanks everyone. I see the green check marks popping up. Almost everyone has done that already. Thank you. Good. And we will also use the chat function. So if you could click on the chat box, I have an opening discussion question for you. So we can practice using chat. And we'll use the chat box for you to either submit questions to me or for me to ask you questions and get your input, such as right now. So my question for you is, what changes have you seen while searching for a job now that we're in the middle of a pandemic? What changes have you seen in the job market and how you're presenting your resume or anything about the process? Go ahead and type in a few phrases or words into the chat function. And I know as I have talked with my colleagues that work in staffing agency, I know for one thing, the number of open jobs has come down and the number of candidates has gone up, but people are still getting interviews. Good, I see some comments coming in, thank you. And somebody said they've seen fewer postings, but it is starting to pick up, and I would agree with that. And I know I get calls every day with people that are preparing for interviews and need help. Fewer real opportunities, less response. People are adjusting to new ways of working, and so they may not be as responsive. Okay, stiff competition. It is stiff out there, so that's why it's important to come to this webinar to enhance your resume so that you can get noticed. And the interviews, somebody mentioned the interviews are online or over video. So practicing those interview skills and practicing looking right at the camera, making sure you don't have a distracting background and make sure you have good lighting. That's all important. And recruiters are saying there are less job openings. That is true. Okay, and jobs filled very quickly. More remote work. Companies are learning that they can do remote work. And the aerospace industry has been hit hard, somebody mentioned. Thank you for those excellent comments. And by way of introduction, I wanted to share my background with you. I have over 30 years of experience working for an IT firm where I was a hiring manager in most of my job duties. I was a system engineer, a systems manager, sales executive, HR manager, learning and development manager. And throughout that whole process, I learned behavioral interviewing and served as a hiring manager. Then when I retired, took early retirement in 2012, I got a job as a recruiter. So I learned from some of the best in the industry. So I could learn lots of tips and tricks that I can share with you all today. So I've worked both in agency recruiting settings and also as a corporate recruiter. And I've placed candidates in a variety of roles, including IT, accounting, finance, marketing, sales, project management, administrative, learning and development, a lot of different roles. And like Jeff, I'm a PIT crew panelist and coach. PIT stands for Practice Interview Team. And that's where we help people practice interviews. And if you ever want to sign up for a practice interview, you can just send an email to dallaspitcrew@gmail.com, include a copy of your resume and a job description, and we'll get you on the schedule and do a mock interview with you and give you valuable feedback. And then also I'm certified by the Professional Association of Resume Writers and Career Coaches. And to do that, I had to take a 70-question essay test, which sounds terrible, but I actually had a lot of fun with it because it was all my favorite topics. And let's see, somebody else made a question. Facebook, not many calls. Okay, Facebook, not many calls. Oh, so a Facebook question. Somebody's saying they're not getting many calls. Okay, so that means during times like now, you have to be very proactive. If you apply for a job online, sit back and wait for a call, the chances of getting called for an interview are really low. So since it is so competitive, you do have to take an extra step. Either reach out to somebody you know at that company that can vouch for you and advocate for you to the recruiting leadership, or reach out to the recruiter who posted the job. If you don't know the name of the recruiter, do some research on LinkedIn, try to find the recruiting or talent acquisition leader at that organization and let them know that you applied. Say, hi, I'm Carol Brickell, wanted to introduce myself. I just applied for your corporate recruiting position. I meet all of your requirements. I have 5 years of experience and I'd be happy to come in for a conversation. Whenever I got a call like that as a recruiter, I always invited that person in. And those are the people I usually hired. People that are proactive like that. So are we ready to get started with our agenda? I'm going to ask for a little question here in your participant box. If you could give me a green check mark if you have seen a Resume Thursday presentation before in the last few weeks. We run these every week. Give me a green check mark if you've seen this presentation before, and give me a red X if you've never seen it. Good, so we have a couple people that have seen it before. Good, that's why I always bring in fresh content every week. And then a few people have never seen it. And there are a few basic things that we review every time, but every time we have a slightly different angle based on the questions of the audience. So our agenda today is the first half of the presentation. We'll talk about some basics about what to do for your resumes to make them ATS friendly. So they're friendly for those online applicant tracking systems. And then I will be sharing some resume and job search tips that I've researched regarding working in the pandemic and trying to find a job during this pandemic. Then we'll walk through key components of the resume and some suggestions. And whenever you share your resume with somebody, you'll get an opinion. If you share it with 5 different people, you'll get 5 different opinions. And I'll be sharing some perspectives today based on my experience as a recruiter and a hiring manager. And throughout my career, I've had to look at dozens or hundreds, probably thousands of resumes and present those to hiring managers. So I've gotten a lot of feedback about what they like to see. So the feedback I'm providing is from that perspective after having walked a mile in the shoes of a recruiter and as a hiring manager. And your job as a participant in this workshop is to listen to the advice you might be hearing from me or other experts that may offer input, and Jeff may offer some great input as well. Jeff usually does during these workshops, and I appreciate that. You'll hear lots of different ideas, and it's up to you to decide what works best for you. So we'll share as many ideas as we can, and then you can use the ones you think are appropriate for you, and the ones that won't work, don't worry about it. we won't take any offense at that. And then, as Jeff mentioned, during the second half of our session today, up until 10 minutes prior to the top of the hour, we will have time to review a resume or two. And so if you would like some feedback on your resume, please do submit it in chat and attach a file. And you can change the name, as Jeff mentioned, off the top of your resume if you want to remain anonymous. And people have found this to be very useful, because what we will do is we will comment on what looks good and maybe just give a few suggestions on what could be done to enhance your resume. So take advantage of that opportunity. We won't be too hard on you. So good. And we'll be watching the chat function for any files to get uploaded. So a word about applicant tracking systems. These are the systems when you're entering and applying online, applicant tracking systems. They might be something like Taleo, iCIMS, Workday has an applicant tracking component. And thank you very much. We do have a volunteer that has volunteered to download their resume. And so what I'm going to do is store it real quickly where I can retrieve it quickly when the time comes. Thank you very much. And today, since we do have to end at 10 minutes before the top of the hour, we may just have time to look at that one resume. So thank you for that. And the way these applicant tracking systems work is they read the data in your resume and they parse it. They read it and put it in the right file structure. They'll put your name, your phone number, your email, the companies you've worked for, the job titles you've had, the keywords, and they'll parse that data. And what happens is if they run into any special characters, any special boxes or formatting, that could interrupt the parsing process. And so data may not get read properly. So you want to upload very clean versions without any special formatting into the ATS systems. It's okay to have those pure default bullet points. That's okay. But almost anything else can cause an issue. And thank you. We do have a second resume. So we are good to go with resumes for today. Thank you very much. And one thing you do want to make sure is that your keywords in your resume align to the job description you're applying to. We'll show some examples of how to do that. And a way you can test your resume against a job description is to use a tool called jobscan.co. It will tell you if your resume aligns 30% or 80% to that job and can give you, and that'll give you some ideas of maybe some wording to change. And you can also usually upload your resume as an attachment, and that's what usually the recruiters are looking at. And you often have an opportunity to upload a cover letter. Sometimes it's required. And I wouldn't spend a lot of time on those because frankly, as a recruiter, I never clicked on them. I didn't have time. I was going through even the sort of the top 10% candidates. It might be 20 or 30 candidates, and I didn't have time to click on the cover letters. But it's okay to go ahead and submit one. And during our webinar today, Jeff will be uploading a sample resume template and a sample cover letter template for you to use. It'll be in the chat box, and he'll upload those as files that you can download. And so I did a little bit of research in preparation for the session today about guidance during the pandemic. And one thing to do, because, and I appreciate all the comments that came in, it is more competitive out there and there aren't as many jobs. So you need to research which employers and industries are in active hiring mode. And based on my research, like the companies I hear, I'll mention some company names I know are hiring. And if you know of any other companies that are hiring, type those into chat, please. That would be helpful for all of us. If you know of any industries or companies that are hiring. Based on my research, I found Aldi is hiring, Amazon, Walgreens, Pepsi, big technology firms, Apple, Facebook, Google. They're looking for lots of cybersecurity, data science people, and healthcare is hiring. And for updated lists about companies that are hiring, LinkedIn does provide some lists. Also, that jobscan.co is another good resource to get updated lists. I hear the Wall Street Journal updates their lists. So, so keep up to date and Google, companies that are hiring during this pandemic. And Jeff has just uploaded a sample resume template and a sample cover letter into the chat box so you can download those. Thank you, Jeff, for doing that. And then also additional guidance in your resume, add remote friendly keywords into your resume and also to your cover letters and your LinkedIn profile. These are things to illustrate that you're very comfortable using technology to work remotely, that you're comfortable using Zoom and GoToWebinar. And also if you've used any document or file sharing technologies like Google Docs, include that in your resume. And then add any details of work experience that you've had working remotely. Like if you had, for example, if you had led remote team meetings using various technology, describe that. So use those keywords to show that you're very comfortable working with remote technology. And also monitor social media for job opportunities. Obviously that can include LinkedIn, but also on Facebook. I have several good friends that are recruiters and they post things on Facebook, sometimes on Instagram, but sometimes on Facebook. So monitor those as well. And then during the pandemic, because it is so competitive, create systems for yourself for success. And what I mean by that is set goals for yourself every week. Like for example, I will make 3 networking contacts every day and focus on the things you can control, because the things that you can't control might make you frustrated. And you know, don't keep track of the number of people that don't call back. You can't control that. Those people, those recruiters are probably underwater, under pressure. They're worried about their jobs right now. So focus on the things you can control, set plans for yourself, attend networking sessions that are valuable to you, attend workshops such as this one that offer a value add for you, and focus on those things that you can control and set goals that make you, feel like you've accomplished something. Okay. And somebody asked a question regarding item number 2, regarding where to put the remote friendly keywords. One place is to put it under your software skills. Like for example, if you've used Zoom or GoToMeeting or WebEx or Skype, you can just list that there. If you're describing a job accomplishment that you successfully led remote team meetings using virtual technology, including Zoom, you could put that under your job professional experience. So you could put those items in either of those places. And if the job you're looking for is a remote job, you may even want to consider putting it up in your profile or key areas of expertise. And we'll show that when we show the format of the resume. Thank you very much for that question. And then so the final one is to turn your employment gap, because I talk with many people right now where right now is kind of a gap because their company may have gone through a downsizing in February, March due to the pandemic, and now they don't have anything, and their resume says they've been employed through March. And so turn that gap into a gain. And what I mean by that is to seek opportunities that you can put on your resume. And sometimes people will add, instead of a company name, they'll say community leadership and consulting and list a couple of bullets. If you're doing consulting, maybe even some accounting work for your church, provided accounting support or whatever to a nonprofit organization, you could put that as a bullet. And seek ways where you can show community leadership and volunteer, whether it's leading a group of volunteers at a food bank or volunteering to help interview for the pit crew. That's one example. Or volunteering to help Jeff out. Jeff, do you need any volunteers for Career DFW? Are you ever looking for any volunteers to help?
Yeah, the 2 volunteers I'd be looking for is somebody in public relations, somebody who's not afraid to call up the TV radio stations and get the word out about what we're doing, and an attorney who knows copyright, trademark stuff. That would be interesting also.
Okay, so seek opportunities as you're networking with people. Ask them, if they know of any great volunteer opportunities, especially where you can use your expertise or demonstrate leadership. And also, if you're a resume expert, sometimes I look for volunteers to help co-teach with me as well. So, great. Okay. And I want to share a few quick tips regarding resumes from an expert here in the DFW area, Gail Houston, who's an executive recruiter, and she also co-teaches the Career Transition Workshop. She was generous to share with me her top 5 favorite resume tips, and I'll cover those quickly now before we walk into our sample resume format. She does recommend that you include your LinkedIn URL, and you want to include a customized simple version versus the default version, which has a whole bunch of numbers on it. And you can customize your LinkedIn profile by going to your profile page and click on Edit Public Profile URL. That's an option up in the upper right. I guess it's the right, upper right. You can modify that. And then also include a professional email on your resume. For example, mine is brickell.carol@yahoo.com. It's not Carol the crazy cat lady or something, unprofessional. You want to make sure it's professional and related to your name. And then your closest large city, state, because not everyone may know all the various suburbs that are around. And then at the top of your resume, make sure you're saying who you are. I've read a lot of resumes where I have to get into the job experience to figure out, okay, what kind of person is this? Are they looking for an accounting job or a project management job? State it up front and state it in a way that aligns to the job that you're applying to, whether it's a senior project manager or an HR director or whatever it is. State it at the top of your resume. And create an accomplishment-based resume. Make sure your bullet points are focusing on accomplishments and it doesn't just read like a job description. And we'll show you some examples of how to do that here in a couple minutes. And then be very careful about the formatting. Make it very clean and easy to read. You don't want it too crowded. And Gail recommends 2 pages if you're an experienced employee. That's kind of the sweet spot. And we do recognize that in some industries, you might need a longer resume. For example, in the government, they like to see a lot of details. Higher education. Also, if you have a highly technical job, you may need an extra page to show all your certifications and the technical training you've been through. So those were good comments from our friend Gail Houston. So now we will show key components of a resume, and this goes along with the template that Jeff has provided. And the template that I'm using for this training session is based on one that I've created over years of being a recruiter and working with hiring manager and getting feedback from hiring managers. And I tested that format in a couple different places. Number one, when I went through my certification as a career coach, I looked at the templates they provided and recommended. They're very similar, almost identical to the one I'm providing today. And also in the career transition workshop that Gail teaches, the templates they use are very similar to the one I'm providing today. It's a tried and true format. It's one that's easy for the recruiters and hiring managers to read, because your goal is you want to make it easy for ATS systems and recruiters and hiring managers to quickly, within 7 to 10 seconds, look at your resume and determine if you're a good match for the job. So you want to make it very easy to read. And these are the key components of most resumes. You may have additional components such as certifications or publications, but these are the most commonly used components in a resume. You need a heading, a summary, and then an optional key accomplishments section, especially if you're in sales or something where you need to show some quantitative results. And in terms of font types and sizes, I've done some research on that, and the top recommended font is Calibri or Calibri. If anybody knows how to pronounce that, put it into the chat box. But Calibri 11. 10's a little small, 11 is kind of the sweet spot. Some people use Times New Roman. 10 is a little small for that, and it's a little flowery you're looking at. Calibri is a little more straightforward. I'm learning about one called Georgia that's being used a lot as well. So thank you for that. You don't want to make your font too small. And other components of the resume, your summary section and key accomplishments, and of course your professional experience in reverse chronological order with your most recent job at the top. And if you have a big old long resume with almost 40 years of experience like mine is, you can really focus on the most recent 10 or 15 years and then have a new heading, prior relevant experience, and just list the company names and your titles to show the full picture, but you don't have to put dates on those older ones. And somebody provided some good additional technical information regarding fonts, that using ones that are sans serif things like Calibri instead of the ones with the sans serif with the fancy squigglies like Times New Roman, because they look a little more flowery. So Calibri is the one that's really easy to read. Good, thank you for that additional suggestion. And then you want to include your education and software skills. So in the heading, make it very clean, make your name stand out right up top in your resume, and include your phone number, your modified LinkedIn address, email, and city and state. You do not need to include your street address at all. In fact, we advise against that. And you can include your zip code if you'd like. Some recruiters search on zip codes. And a very important part of your resume. Every resume should have a summary profile section at the top of it. And it's not an objective saying, you know, I seek a company that's growing where I can learn more skills. Not like that. The summary is a statement of who you are as a professional using language and words that align to the job that you're applying to. And that summary statement should be no more than 3 lines, 3 or 4 at the very most. And then include key areas of expertise. 9 bullet points seems to be the sweet spot. And I recommend modifying this section for every job application. Those top 3 key points should align, areas of expertise should align to the top 3 in the jobs that you're applying for. And then key accomplishments is an optional section you can have on your resume. And this is especially useful for sales or business development type of positions where you want to summarize the top 3 or 4 accomplishments you've made in your career in terms of achieving targets, especially, or getting awards. And that's a good way to do it at the top of your resume with key accomplishments. For other jobs, like in HR or accounting finance, maybe or maybe not. Okay. Just had a long comment in text. And somebody was asking about some of the online applications want the exact day of the month you were hired. That may be true. I know they do, and the online applications do want months and years. In my resume, on the resume itself, mine was so long, I just put the years. But when you're applying online, you often do have to put the months and maybe the day. Yeah.
One of the suggestions for people is that, you know, now that you have the time, things a little bit slower, prepare a master resume, make it 10 pages, 15 pages long, and put down all the details. Go back and find, like I have a little file folder with all my resumes back to the 1990s, and go through and compile all that information, put all those put 15 bullet points per job and all the details, where you worked, when you worked, who was your supervisor, because that way when you do see a job, you can then go and delete everything that's unimportant. And you don't have to think about it. Wait, I think I did that way back when, or what was the month I did that?
Great. Thank you, Jeff. That's so great to have all that information available. And then often when I'm coaching people, they have 2 different versions of their resume. One where they're looking for a management position, one is a project manager. And then they have 2 different flavors that pull out those points that are applicable to either, in either resume. And yes, we're going to get to software skills. So we will show that on the resume format. And in terms of professional experience, do have it in reverse chronological order with your most recent job at the top. Functional resumes are not very popular with hiring managers. They want to see the chronology and your track record and any gaps, and they want to see the longevity. Make it very easy to read, where you have the company name and the dates over here that are right justified, and very clean bullet points, and make sure the verbs are all parallel for current jobs. Make sure they're all in the present tense, and don't have some end in ing, some end with an S, some without. Make sure they're all parallel. And then past jobs should all be in the past tense. And I can't tell you how many resumes don't follow that. And I've had hiring managers throw those resumes away. And then a little more detail regarding the bullets. For every job, somewhere between 5 and 8 bullets is a good number. I've seen some resumes where people have listed 15 to 20 bullets under a job, and that's too many for a hiring manager to absorb. So I'd recommend really focusing on the biggest 5 to 8 bullets and focus on results and accomplishments. Your resume should not read like just a job description. Okay. And in terms of focusing on results, here, I'll walk you through an example of how to make your bullet points stronger. For example, I was coaching a business analyst on his resume, and he had a bullet point under one of his jobs where he developed a Visual Basic program to automate the conversion and migration of data. That sounds pretty good, but I said, so what? That's just a funny way of asking, what was the real result? What was the accomplishment from that? What was the impact? And he had an answer to it. And the answer was it resulted in reducing the data migration time, eliminating errors, and increasing the stakeholder and client confidence. So he ended up redoing that bullet and starting with the headline, the result, that he reduced data migration time, eliminated errors, and increased stakeholder confidence by developing that basic program. So that's a game you can play with yourself, is go through your resume and say, so what? What was the impact? And then when you come up with what that impact is, think of a really strong verb to use at the beginning of your statement. And somebody asked, should you format a volunteer bridge position as well? Yes, you can. Like if you have a gap in your resume for a year when you were searching for a job, you may want to have a heading that says community leadership and consulting and put a couple of those bullet points in there in the chronology of your resume. And a couple of quick points before we get to the sample resumes. If you have multiple roles at a company, next to the company name, put the full time that you're with the company, and then for each job that you had, put the dates in parentheses. Many times I see people put these dates for each job outright justified, and it looks like they job hopped. If you do it this way, it makes your resume stronger. And it makes you show that you have longevity at companies, and also shows that you're promoted and you have progression. And thank you, Jeff, for that great job highlighting that part of the resume. And if you have a company that has been acquired or changed names, here are a couple of options. You can put the name of the company now and say it was formerly ABC. And for example, when I retired from HP in 2012 and was looking for a job as a recruiter, mine said EDS or HP Enterprise Services, formerly EDS, or the other way I could have done it was EDS acquired by HP in 2008, which is when they were acquired. So these are a couple of ways you can do it, either with the current name of the company or the old name and say that when they were acquired. So there's a couple little tricks there. And then education software skills. Somebody asked a question about that. Absolutely, you want to list those and put your degree, if you do have a degree. Otherwise, just put the name of the school and the years that you were there. Software skills, if the job description asks for Microsoft Office, even though it seems silly to put it there, I would put it there because that's a keyword match. That'll get you points. So that's that about software. And this is actually a very important concept here about aligning your resume to a job description. So what you want to do, and I'm going to turn on animation here, is you want to really study the job description and look for keywords that they're looking for, like documenting business requirements, and make sure you have those keywords on your resume. Improve processes, make sure that that's there. Cross-functional teams. Yeah, they're looking for people who can work cross-functionally, and look for these, what they're looking for in terms of the job requirements, and also study in the job description any software methodology requirements, and make sure you're putting those on your resume as well. So if they're looking for Agile and you have that experience, put that there. And Visual Studio. Okay, and then somebody asked a question on the resume regarding education. You don't need to put the year you got your degree if you don't want to. I think I left it off of mine as well. So you don't have to put it on your resume. Now, when you fill out a job application, you may need to, and they'll use that for background checking. And you want to make sure that's accurate. I have seen people, you wouldn't believe it, I have seen people fabricate degrees on resumes, and you don't want to do that. Okay, good. And somebody said technical skills. So software, you could say software skills or technical skills if you want. Good. Now at this time, what I'm going to do is stop sharing my presentation. And if you do have any questions, you're still welcome to put those into chat. And now I'm going to share one of the resumes. I'll share the first one that came in. This takes just a second. And I'll do a check with, well, I'll have to do that one more time real quickly. Okay, one second. There's a couple steps you have to go through with this sharing. Okay, Jeff, can you see?
Yeah, you're good.
The resume? Okay, good, good. I was trying to enlarge the text and it booted me out, so I'm going to.
Oh, go down to the very bottom where you say the plus minus up to 100%.
Oh yeah, that'll help. Yeah, I was
over a little bit,
control.
make it a little bit bigger.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, when I did control mouse click thing, it booted me out. So, okay, and I'm going to click on the chat box too, so I can see any comments that are coming in. Good. So what I'm going to do with this resume, and thank you very much for sharing your sample resume, is I'm going to scroll through it as if I'm a recruiter. I'm just going to spend a couple minutes or few seconds scrolling down through it. And those of you in the audience, I'd like you to think about what you like about the formatting, and if you see anything where you have any suggestions for improvement, and you can go ahead and write those into chat. And okay. I'll respond to a couple of quick questions here in the chat box. Somebody's heard advice that resume should show only the last 10 to 12 years of experience. What do I think? I have a definite opinion about that, because when I would interview candidates and they only showed 10 years of experience on the resume, and if I asked them an interview question and they said, oh, when I worked at IBM, I'd say, well, that's not on your resume, it would cause confusion. And so that's why I recommend focusing maybe on the most recent 10, 15 years or so, and then have a section that says prior relevant experience and list the company names and job titles. You don't have to list the dates, but that way you're showing your whole self, and hiring managers do want to see the whole picture. It's very obvious when a resume is chopped off after 10 years and it looks like you're hiding something or not telling the full career story. And somebody asked about adding their associate's degree to your resume. Yeah, absolutely. Especially if the job requires that. And, oh, somebody has an associate's and a BA. Yeah, I think that would show good progression from an education perspective, especially if that associate's, let's say it's in accounting or something and you're looking for an accounting job. I think that's fine to show that, because often people will put a bachelor's and then their master's. So associates and then bachelor's shows good progression. Good. So I'm going to scroll through this resume. There's a profile section, areas of expertise. Love that title. In the old days, we used to say skills or competencies, but areas of expertise, that's a great strong word. Good. And then professional experience with the dates right, justified. And then the sub jobs with the dates in parentheses. Leadership, certifications, and awards. So education, certification, and professional development. Great, okay. overall, this is very clean. Dallas, Texas phone number, email, LinkedIn, and then also a website, which is cool. Okay.
The only the comment I would have up there is, if you were applying for a job and the person went to Texas A&M, you probably won't get the job, because they're going to see University of Texas and they're going to go, I don't want Maggie working here. So, you know, I think that you really need to, you need a Gmail account. I mean, it's nice that you went to University of Texas. That's great. But I see you typing, Susan's typing something in that comment box right now. But, you know, I just, you know, you don't want a reason for somebody to throw you out. I mean, it's the same thing as that if you're going to apply for a job at AT&T, do you want your email account to say jeffmorris@verizon.net? You probably don't.
And yeah, Susan's question is, but the education section does say UT.
That's okay.
I mean, that's true. Mm-hmm.
I mean, listen, recruiters will look at the first half of the top of the page for 7 to 10 seconds. And if you don't catch them there, they're not going to proceed to the back page. So, you know, you don't want to give them any reason in the front of the page to throw you out. And
then Susan raises a good question. What if the early experience is irrelevant to what I want now? In that case, you could leave it off, but sometimes it just shows depth of background to show that you did additional things. Like I started off as a system engineer at EDS. And when I was doing sales type of work or technical recruiting work, that was, even though it was kind of a different job, it still showed depth of background and additional experience. So you could take that on a case-by-case basis. Okay. And if we want to talk about that offline, Susan, you're certainly welcome to reach out to me. And I do want to make this announcement to this audience that during this pandemic summer through August, I am offering a free coaching session to anyone who has a financial need to do that. And then I offer coaching in general through career coaching. But if anybody needs a session, you're welcome to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Good. And I like internal communications executive. That's a statement of who you are, with a few keywords there. And this is a little long. I don't know if a hiring manager would be able to absorb this. This is 4 lines here. I would make that 3 lines. And I don't know if this is critical, unless those are the top 3 critical things needed in the job that you're applying for, maybe, but I don't know if this little section is necessary. I do think, and if anybody has any comments, feel free to jump in on chat, or Jeff, you're welcome to jump in on the microphone. And areas of expertise, excellent. I do find it's a little harder to read when it's not in like 3 columns, because the words kind of run together a little bit more. So I know some of them are longer, maybe have 2 columns or something where it's a little easier where they jump out. You want the words to jump out. Okay. And then SMU, February, March, contract rule. That explains why it was so short. Okay. And this one doesn't have any bullets. And that might be okay. People don't tend to read paragraphs. And here we have a verb that's in the present tense, but it really should be in the past. I think, yeah, this is all written in the present tense. That needs to be changed to the past tense. I would make these bullets, and you're starting with a good, strong verb. You enhanced the university image by writing executive. That's good. And then you worked with, for instance, work with plans that address COVID. Oh, I see. Okay. I would ask the so what question with the second sentence to come up with what is that result? What is that outcome? And somebody asked a question about italics because they've heard that ATS systems can't read them. And I've heard that in a recent webinar somewhere. Somebody said that italics can't be read, and I've researched that. I've not found that to be true. You're welcome to double check that, but I have not, the research I've seen has indicated just special characters, like special bullets, maybe underlining, which is kind of a special thing, or boxes, or special chevron or arrows or check marks for bullets can cause issues. But italics text, it should be fine from the research I've done. Okay. All right.
The only other thing I would maybe add would be a little bit more space on both sides. It looks like she only has a 1/2 inch margin on both sides. And if you could go to 1 inch, that would be, it just makes it a little bit easier to read.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. And it's a little text heavy here. Envisioned, designed, coached. Those are pretty good, strong words. You might want to play the so what game just to see what happens. Okay. And again, you want to align and just focus on the things that really are applicable to the jobs that you're applying to. Okay, then industry leadership. Yeah, if these are pertinent, that's good. You have your bachelor's, and it looks like, Jeff, we're coming on end of time here, and congratulations on the awards, Susan. So excellent. So Susan, thank you for taking your time. And to the other person who we didn't have time to review your resume, if you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, we can do that offline. I'll give you a free session to do that if you'd like to do that. So, so Jeff, I know we're at 10 minutes before the top of the hour.
Right. So Carol, thank you very much for your time. Yeah, we have to get out because there's another webinar starting at 2 o'clock. Let's see here, just a few last minute things here. If you'd like to join the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group tomorrow morning at 9:30, our speaker is going to talk about strength finders and core clarity. His name is PJ Dunn. He's an excellent speaker, and he really be a fascinating talk about how to use strength finders. I talked to him today about how to use it in your job search and how to think about in interviewing and how to put those words into your resume. So join us tomorrow morning. He'll be talking about strength finders. Next Tuesday, LinkedIn Tuesday, Ruth Lipsky from Lee Heck Harrison will be with us. At 3 o'clock, the Frisco Career Transition Workshop will be doing interviewing. And the next Wednesday, the Interviewing Wednesday session, we'll talk about discussions as far as how to talk about compensation and why did you leave your last job. Two questions that come up in every interview, and you need to be prepared for that. I'll skip those couple slides here. I just want to remind everybody these sessions have been recorded. They'll be on the Career.W Facebook page, and they're on the Career USA YouTube channel. If you go to Facebook, this is what it looks like. If you will, when you go to the Facebook page, Career DFW Facebook page, please click on the following tab. If you do that, every time we go live on the internet, or we go live on Facebook, you'll get an alert on your phone saying that Career DFW is currently live. And you'll be able to find those things will pop up for you. If you click on where the blue arrow is, it'll show you all the videos, and they're all grouped together by category. So you can see all the resume videos together, all the interviewing resumes together. So you can find that stuff there. On YouTube, the Career USA YouTube channel, if you click on the green, where you see the green arrow where it clicks on playlist, it'll pop up and show the different playlists. Currently, I have 5 of them set up. I'm only showing you 3 of them here. And underneath each of the playlists, you can view full playlist. And when you do that, you will see all the past sessions that we've had. So that way you can go back and you can view something that Carol talked about today or things that she's talked about in the past. Just as a reminder, Career DFW is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Carol, along with all the speakers for all the different networking events and career things we do, are all volunteers. I'm a volunteer. I'm just here to help you find your next great opportunity. We have no full or part-time employees, and we survive on donations. So we ask that when you do land your next job, please consider making a donation to help Career DFW to continue. If your company offers matching funds, please look up Career DFW. Let your match be doubled by the company. If you don't see our name on the list, please contact me. I will get our name on your particular list. I know we're on a couple of them. So I want to thank everybody for being with us. Have a great rest of the day on Thursday. And Carol, once again, thank you very much. And hopefully we'll see some of you tomorrow morning at 9:30.
Jeff, thanks everyone. Have a great day.